They look like street hoodlums. In reality, they belong to a paid attack troupe that is employed by Christian Fiala, a notorious abortionist in the Austrian capital, Vienna. Not much different from thugs contracted by organized crime to intimidate their targets, these ruffians do whatever it takes to keep pro-lifers from praying quietly on the public sidewalk in front of Fiala's abortion business. The lawless bullies demonstrate virtually no limits to what they're ready to do to prevent pro-lifers from giving mothers information about a last-minute alternative to killing their unborn children. The sadistic hired guns of abortionist Fiala attack the praying pro-lifers with psychological terror tactics. The pro-lifers are sexually abused and subjected to public humiliation. The police just looks away, although the abuse happens on public ground. For several years, volunteers with the civil rights movement Human Life International pray quietly in front of the abortion mill Gemed in the center of Vienna. The owner of this business, Dr. Christian Fiala, not only takes pictures of the praying pro-lifers, he also triumphantly sends forth his hired aggressors in order to hunt down and humiliate their defenseless prey. During the attacks, abortionist Fiala prefers to keep a low profile. He calls his rampaging troops of goons escorts, but their pitiful actions speak for themselves. They are shameless, vicious, vulgar, and brutal. The assailants make a point in showing their disdain and contempt for pro-lifers. Here they torment a gentle pro-lifer while he tries to pray silently. The offenders also sexually abuse their innocent victims. Here the Fiala assaulter clutches around the neck of the praying pro-lifer, who is dressed in blue. Then the insolent instigator teases the pro-lifer, trying to provoke him by intruding on his privacy as he prays, grasping his face with his fingers. Next, the assailant proceeds to paw, grope, and fondle his praying victim. This unrestrained invader, seen here in an orange t-shirt, even unzips the pants of his easy mark. Then he goes so far as to grab over and over at the genital area of the victim, who jumps back, trying to evade the molestation. Such cases of sexual encroachment occur repeatedly. The victims, not wanting to take retribution into their own hands, have asked the city of Vienna time and again for police protection from this unrelenting harassment and abuse, but not once have they received any assistance. Another of Fiala's mercenaries, here seen in a light brown shirt, prefers to try another tactic, that of psychological intimidation. He invades the personal space of his praying victim. Only inches away from his face, attempts to stare him down. Then he holds his index finger at the pro-lifer's vulnerable face. Here, abortionist Fiala discusses with the previously shown perpetrator. You can witness Fiala's employees trying to prevent the video documentation. After having finished their daily work shift, they report back, withdrawing into the abortion mill. Fiala is easily able to observe what his employees are doing on the street, either by simply looking out the window or by way of the 2 surveillance cameras he has mounted outside. The attack made in view of Fiala's surveillance cameras are not limited to men. Fiala's employees execute their sexual degradation against women with the consent of the Vienna police. Here a young blonde pro-lifer in a light blue jacket prays silently on the public sidewalk outside of Fiala's abortion business. A Fiala employee, seen dressed in orange, rushes upon her without warning. He pulls out a wooden wedge that is obviously meant to represent the male sexual organ and rubs it against the woman's breasts. Next, he stands behind the lady while praying with the wooden wedge in front of his genital area. Finally, he positions himself in front of the praying woman, placing the wooden stick at the abdomen height between himself and his victim. Meanwhile, he begins to groan loudly. The horrifying mock rape is still not finished. Now the shameless abuser drapes a sweater over his head and the head of the woman. Meanwhile, mimicking the sex act, the offensive assailant vulgarly thrusts his abdomen back and forth close to his defenseless victim. Fiala's attack troops have powerful friends in Vienna. Although the self-restraint which the peaceful pro-lifers have always demonstrated is admirable and heroic, the socialist Viennese government wants to further persecute the abused pro-lifers as the guilty party. There are political threats to abolish the civil right of free speech by forbidding the prayerful presence of pro-lifers in public areas. Such cases of public humiliation, sexual harassment, and persecution are not just completely unprofessional, they are outright inhumane, deplorable, and violate human rights. That such behavior is officially tolerated in a supposedly cultured society is scandalous and deserving of a public outcry.